my yarny friends. Are you ready for Friday Fun Day with Sarah? That's me. Well, today I have a really fun and simple project for you. We're going to make this easy and fun coffee koozie or cozy, however you want to call it. It's a nice way to take an old mug and make it look fresh and new again. They also make nice gifts. This one I stitched with some leftover Mandela yarn that I had on hand, and check out the buttons that I found. Aren't those cute? I'll talk about those in just a second. Now this koozie or cozy can fit a regular size mug because you have the opportunity to adjust it to fit. It also fits our regular coffee cups. This one's one of my favorites because I could slide in some pictures of my grandkids. All right, so basically this particular coffee koozie can be adjusted to fit any size coffee cup or mug. All right, and we'll talk about that in just a second. Now, if you want the written pattern, you can find the written pattern along with a few notes down in the notes underneath this video in that description box. On every video that I make for Friday Fun Day, we're trying really hard to get that pattern in that description box so that it can help you, because lots of people like to have it as they follow along. All right, so let's get started. So to make our coffee koozie or cozy or sleeve or cup warmer, has lots of different names, you're going to, of course, need some yarn. And this is stitched up with 2 strands of yarn. And that means we're going to take 2 strands and hold them together. And that's going to make it stitch up really quickly. Now we're using a medium weight number 4 yarn. And I decided to go ahead and make one in fall colors today. Since this one is so bright and cheerful, I thought it would be fun to have one for fall. All right, and it doesn't take very much, not even an ounce of each color. So we'll just say you need an ounce of 2 different colors. That's probably way more than you need, but get in your yarn stash and you can come up with lots of different styles. Now I have some buttons out here. This is the package. I bought 2 of these. I bought these at Hobby Lobby. It's got some snowman like this. It's got some kids dressed in their winter clothes. It's got a puppy in a scarf and 2 cocoa mugs. And I just put the puppy and the 2 mugs on this one. All right. And that's decorative buttons. And you know what? It's up to you what you want to put on there. I was actually looking for a cardinal button, and I haven't been able to find one. I'm going to look at Joann's and see if I can find some there, because I would love to make some in red and put some cardinal buttons on there. Maybe red and green. You're also going to need a button that's about 1 inch. This one here is 1 inch. This one is about 1.25 inches. And we need that for our button loop on our koozie. All right. I'm going to use these. I'm going to use this cute little puppy button that I have, and these 2 little paw print buttons, just decorative. I like to put 3 on there. It's up to you how many you want to put. You can put a whole bunch. You could put this whole scene on there if you want to. And the reason that's okay is because they don't get in the way. Let me show you. Here is what it looks like. And this, I'll talk about adjusting it in a minute, but you can see you're just going to do a long row, and then we taper down with some decrease stitches. We add the trim with the button loop, and then it will fit any size that you want. And then of course you can adjust that as needed. This is a coffee mug my son got me. Isn't that funny? He's my second born. If at first you don't succeed, try again. Happy Mother's Day from your second born. My daughter's the oldest, my son's the second born. I love this mug though. All righty, there we go. And I just stuck it on upside down. But that's okay, it's super fun. All right, so you need a button that's about 1 inch to 1.25 inches and some fun decorative buttons. I will tell you, the best place to find cute buttons is in the scrapbooking departments of your craft stores. Sometimes over in the sewing buttons, they do have some fun ones also, but I seem to find the best ones that are unique and different over in the scrapbooking department. All right, so we're going to stitch with our J hook. Since we're holding 2 strands together, we need a little bit bigger hook, and it's a 6.0 millimeter crochet hook. You need a needle for weaving in ends and sewing on buttons, and of course, a pair of scissors. Now go get in your yarn stash and see what fun colors you can come up with. Also, I bet if you're like me, you've got a bunch of buttons laying around and you can come up with some really fun ideas. Let's talk for just a second about how do you stitch holding 2 strands of yarn together. And you just hold them together, and what I do is I take a skein of yarn and I pull from one end and from the outside, and I stick it in a bowl. In this, I have this container that I like to use, and I gently pull it out a little at a time. It does take a little bit more time that way. If you want to just roll it into 2 balls, that works great also. And the key to getting it nice and even is just every now and then to kind of pull it back like this. And don't think of this as 2 strands. Think of it as 1 strand of yarn. Holding our 2 strands of yarn together, we're going to begin with a slip knot. And we're going to chain 10 chains. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, now we're going to stitch a double crochet in the 4th chain from the hook. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yarn over, go in, pull up a loop, yarn over, go through the first 2, yarn over, and go through the second 2. And now we're just going to place a double crochet in each of those chains across. And see how I'm pulling that yarn together? We don't want it drooping. We don't want it getting too snug. Whoops. And make sure we always grab both loops. There we go. One more stitch. I'm going to go ahead and chain 3. And you're going to have 1 here because our chain 3 at the beginning counts as our first stitch. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 double crochets with our chain 3. We're going to turn our work, and we're going to be stitching in the back loops only. All right, so yarn over. Our chain 3 counts as our first double crochet, so we're going to go in the next double crochet. And if you look at the top here, you'll see loops on this side and loops on this side. I call that the braid even though it's not a braid. The loops that are on this side are your front loops. The loops that are on this side are your back loops. And we're only going to be stitching in the back loops. All right, so we're going to go to our next double crochet and stitch our double crochet in the back loop only. And we'll do this all the way across. And that gives us just a little bit of ridge for texture. I wanted it to kind of look like a thick, comfy sweater for our mug. All right, here's our last one. And we'll chain 3. So, if you stitch this correctly, you'll see there's a ridge right there. Those are the front loops that we didn't stitch in. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 double crochets stitched in the back loop only, chain 3 and turn. And then we'll repeat that. Our chain 3 counts as our first, so we go to the next one and stitch in the back loop only. One double crochet in each of these double crochets across, stitching in the back loop only. And look how quickly this is stitching up. That's why these make great last minute gifts. You can always go and find a wonderful cup, a coffee cup, or cup like the one I have with my grandkids' pictures in it, for a gift, have them on hand, and then make some cozies for a gift. All right, so now the ridge is on this side. because we stitched in the back loop only when we turned. All right, and this is the way that it should look at row 3. We have 8 double crochets stitched in the back loop only and chain 3. So now what we're going to do is we're going to continue to repeat chain 3, turn, chain 3 counts as our first, double crochet in each of the back loops only in those stitches. And remember, we don't stitch in the first one because our chain 3 counts as our first stitch. There we go. And chain 3. So now we've stitched 4 rows, stitching 1 double crochet in each of the double crochets, stitching in the back loop only. And the neat thing about this pattern is it's going to look the same on the front or the back. Now, what you're going to do is you're going to continue to repeat this row until you have 13 rows all together. And then we'll start our decrease stitches. So I have 4 here, so I need to stitch 9 more rows, so I'll have 13. Okay? Now, that's where you'll want to measure for whatever mug that you're going to use. So let's go ahead and stitch those additional 9 rows, because 9 and 4 is 13. And then we measure and see if it's going to fit the mug that we're going to use. All right? So, repeat for an additional 9 rows, so you have a total of 13 rows of double crochet in the back loop only. I stitched those additional 9 rows, and if a simple way to count your rows is to count by 2s. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, and then one more is 13. You can see those ridges. It looks the same on both sides with our ridges. And I just really like the way that it looks. It just reminds me of a warm, comfy sweater. Now, what you want to do at this point is make sure it's going to fit the mug. And keep in mind, it will be stretchy, and we're going to be adding that point on the end so that it will reach. Another thing to remember when you're measuring onto your cup is the more it's used, the more stretchy it will become. All right, so now we're going to begin those decrease stitches on the end. So probably like me, you went ahead and stitched a chain 3 there. We're going to take that out and just have a chain 1, because we're going to do some decrease stitches. So we're going to turn our work and we're going to stitch together the first 2 double crochets. It's called double crochet decrease, or stitching 2 double crochets together. So we'll yarn over, we'll go in the first stitch and pull up a loop, then we'll go in the next stitch and pull up a loop. You'll have 4 loops on your hook instead of 3. Yarn over and go through the first 3 loops, yarn over and go through the last 2. So what we did there was we made 2 stitches 1, so we decreased by 1. All right, so we're going to double crochet in the next 4 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4. And that leaves 2 double crochets at the end. And so we're going to do the decrease stitch again. Yarn over, go in, pull up a loop, then we'll go in the next stitch and pull up a loop, yarn over, go through the 3, yarn over and go through 2, and chain 1. So now instead of having 8 stitches, we have 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We're not stitching in the back loops only anymore here as well. All right, so we're going to turn. We're going to stitch the first 2 stitches together again. One double crochet in the next 2. And then we'll stitch the last 2 together. So now we have 1, 2, 3, 4. Chain 1 and turn. And we're going to stitch the last 4 together, stitching the first 2 together and the next 2 together. So we'll stitch a double crochet decrease, and then another double crochet decrease. Chain 1 and turn, and then we'll just stitch these last 2 together. And that forms the point on the end of our cozy, where we can add our loop when we come back around and trim it. We're going to cut our yarn, and we'll tie that off. Okay, and then we'll go ahead at this point and grab our needle and weave this in. That way it's all taken care of and out of our way when we do our trim. When you're weaving in, make sure you go through stitches and fibers of the yarn and not the holes. All right, now I'm going to take a couple minutes and weave this one in down here as well, and then these are all taken care of, and then I'll show you how to add the trim with a button loop. So my coffee koozie or cozy is all tidied up on the ends, and what we're going to do is now join in our trim. We want to join it down here at this corner. We're going to work our way up, make our button loop, and then work our way back down and across the bottom. The trim is also stitched holding 2 strands of our yarn together. All right, so we'll just go right in and join our new color, or you can do this in the same color, of course. And we'll do a little chain 1 just to get us up on top. And now we're going to single crochet evenly across. And this can be a little challenging when you're stitching single crochets in the sides of double crochets. And so what you need to do is try to go in the sides of the stitches and not the holes. There is not a set number of stitches that you need to have. You just want it to look neat and not too close and not too far apart. And this is the part where you probably want to take just a little bit more time. My hook got caught in there. Just to make it look nice and tidy. Now, you don't want to go in that hole there. You want to go in the side of the stitch. Right through the side. And just make it look neat and tidy. All right. And again, there's not a set amount of single crochets you need to have. You just want it to look pretty. That's why it's called evenly single crocheting up the side. All right, so we're going to single crochet all the way up the side till we get to this point up here. And then I'll show you how to make the button loop. It's super easy. This is a super easy project. This is a fun thing that you can do if you're going to have a party. If you're going to have cocoa or apple cider or coffee, having a party, make a koozie for everybody from your scraps. Find out their favorite colors, make it in their favorite colors, and then they can each take one home to remember how much fun they had at your little get-together. I like to do that sort of thing. I like to send people home with a little gift. They're also fun just to have on hand when people just stop by. You offer them a cup of coffee, send them home with a koozie, and they'll remember how kind you were to them. Alright, so I'm just going to continue stitching single crochets up the side of my koozie till I reach this point. So I continued stitching single crochets up to the point, and now I have a single crochet right in the top, and I'm going to chain 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. I'm going to join to the top of this stitch with a slip stitch, and then I'll single crochet right in that same stitch, and that's going to make my button loop. Then I'll turn my work and I'll single crochet back down this side. Alright, so I'll just continue stitching all the way down this side, evenly stitching single crochets. I continued to single crochet down the side, brings me to the bottom. I'm going to put a second single crochet in that corner and then just single crochet across the bottom. Oops. There we go. Accidentally grabbed that other string. Sure that's out of the way there. Alright, now we want to make a second single crochet in that corner. There we go. And join to that first single crochet. There we go. And cut our yarn. Now I'm going to go to the next stitch. Grab that loop so it's nice and smooth. Now I just need to take a minute and weave in my ends, and then I'll show you where to put your buttons on. I'm all tidied up. Now I'm going to put this on my mug so I know where to place my button. So I've got my yarn here. There it is. Hid my needle on myself. I want that to be ready because I'm going to use that to mark it. Okay, so what I do is I put this through the ear of the mug. That's what I call it. I'm sure it has a more technical name than that. Bring this around. Stretch it for placement. And then I take my needle, make a little stitch. And now I know where I'm going to put my button. So I take my needle, I make sure this is going through some stitches and not a hole. And I make another loop. And that just is going to hold it. I'm going to take my hook and pull that extra string to the back because we'll need that to tie a knot. And then I'll just grab my button and sew it in place. And again, you want to make sure that you're going through stitches and not holes. When I was first learning to crochet many years ago, let's not talk about that. I've been crocheting for over 40 years, so. But I used to try to put on appliques or buttons or so on faces and things, and I would like, why are my stitches disappearing? And it was because I was stitching beside and in the holes instead of in the stitches themselves. So you want to make sure that your button is sewed on nice and snug because it's going to get used quite a bit. Alright, so then we'll turn it over and we'll put some knots in it. 1, 2, 3 knots. We get that as close as we can and then clip. Alright, and so this is the way that it's going to sit. Alright, so this is the back of our cozy. And I love these fall colors, they're so pretty. But that's going to tell us where we want to put our buttons. So we're going to put them right here. So I'm going to mark that with my needle, and I'll go ahead and unbutton this. Okay, it seems weird because you think, oh, it needs to be closer down, but it depends on where you put your button, where your other buttons can go. Now I'm going to use this color that's the same as this one, so it doesn't show through in dark orange. Alright, so I'm going to grab my needle and I'm going to place my center button first. I've got it marked there, so I think I'm going to put it right there. Now look at the back, the shank's going sideways, so I'm going to go and make that same little loop. I like doing this, I think it helps it stay put. There we go. Take our hook and grab that to the back. Alright, then we'll just sew our button on. And just think of the possibilities of buttons for the holidays. Hearts for Valentine's Day, Christmas trees for Christmas, or if your person that you're going to give this to, maybe your child's ballet teacher or gymnastics teacher or librarian. You can find toe shoes for a ballerina teacher and different things for different people to customize a fun cozy for. So it makes a really nice gift. And these are also good for smoothie cups because your smoothie cup is cold. And if you put this little sweater on there, it's going to keep your hand from getting cold. So if a person doesn't really drink coffee or tea, they might drink some other things where they would love to have a fun cozy. Same thing with maybe a teacher, you know. All right, the shank is going sideways, so I think I'll put it over here. You just want to make sure that you stitch again in a stitch and not a hole, so you don't lose those buttons through a hole. All right, so also on these next two buttons. And I love that they're two different sizes of paw prints. They're just fun. Use your imagination. Get in your yarn stash and your button stash, and you'll be able to come up with some really cool designs. Alrighty, one more button. I think I'll put this one down here just for fun. Alrighty. Forgot to pull that to the back. Let me go ahead and grab that. There we go, and one more stitch through that paw print just to make sure it's going to stay put. Alrighty. I always try to tie 3 knots. I don't always do them the same, but I do like to have 3 knots when I'm sewing on buttons. Okay, so there is my coffee koozie or cozy. Here's my cup. There you go. And there's my buttons. Isn't that adorable? I just love that. So fun. Wasn't that just super fun? It's a great project to use up your leftover yarns and maybe some of your buttons and come up with some really neat ideas. They make great gifts. And just think of all the holidays and fun get-togethers like birthdays and weddings that you could make some additional fun little gifts for. I will have to tell you though, I'm probably going to keep these. I love them. They're so cute. Okay, so thank you for watching Friday Fun Day with Sarah today, and I'll see you next Friday.